Hi, everybody. This is Rachel Augusta, and I work with animals who are sick, injured, diseased, have been abused, maybe have suffered trauma from physical injuries, uh, emotional abuse, or dealing with age. And this is a part of the Women Holding Women series. I'm so excited. Today, I have a friend and woman in the world who is doing amazing work. Her name is Lorrin Maughan, and she is a Gestaltist who helps people take care of their unfinished business so they can get on with driving positive and compassionate change in the world. Lorrin and her equine partners, Gift and Fella, empower individuals and groups to heal trauma, build resilience, and eliminate toxic belief systems. Now, whether you advocate for social justice or are striving to create compassionate and inclusive workplace cultures, Lorrin can help you bring your most integrated and healthy self to your cause. Lorrin currently lives in Washington State with her equine and feline family members, Gift, Fella, Jasper, Morris, and Piper. Hello, Lorrin. Thank you.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So for
Morris
everybody,
says hi, by the way.
who does?
Morris says hi.
Morris. So that's what I was going to say. So I met Lorrin through Facebook, just becoming Facebook friends because we are both vegans and animal rights activists, and we both love animals. And I really met you through your cats. That was kind of how it all started. You were going through a moving process. Where were you living originally? I can't remember. Ohio?
I was living in Kansas at the time.
Kansas. And
Yeah.
you were going through a big move and you wanted to set them up for success and the stress of being there. And there was mold as well, right?
There was mold. Yeah. Yeah. And Morris had some, what do you call them? Horrors?
He had hara issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because of everything that was going on. So that's how Lorrin and I ended up talking and, kind of like bonding. Our friendship was through her big, beautiful orange baby. So your big ginger cat. So Lorrin,
Yes.
I'm so glad you're here. And I can't wait to hear more about your work at the world because I see it on Facebook, but seeing it is not the same as actually having a conversation and talking about it. So yeah, so you do a lot of things. So what do you feel like is like your mission in this world?
I'm going to give you an analogy. It's kind of like my mission is to be Mozart's piano teacher, right? My mission is to help people to be the geniuses that they are in the work that they do, specifically around what they want to do, changing the world. I believe I'm here to help people to bring compassionate change to the world. And that's ultimately everything that I do comes back to that. How do we help people to make the world a kinder, more compassionate place? And, whether that is, hey, let's not bully people at work, or, let's be a little bit more inclusive and understand that people are carrying history. Let's be kind. Let's be inclusive. Let's really, step up, use our voices, have conversations, most of which we've never been taught how to have.
Right.
And most of which society has taught us ways to relate to each other that are not particularly effective or conducive to a more compassionate world.
So you really help people be able to voice and like have conversations that would be otherwise extremely difficult for them?
I do that. And I also help people to really own the changes that they're making. So I'll give you an example. Most of us white people, right, we don't realize our privilege because we live it, right? So you and I both, white, cisgendered women, right? So we can relate on one level to the injustices against women, and in our head we can relate, but perhaps to injustices against other beings, but we don't live it, and so we do have some blind spots, right? And so part of what my work in the world is to do is to, one, heal those areas that we've been wounded in, but then also to help us expand our peripheral vision, if you will, right? To kind of open up our awareness and our connection with every other being on the planet, so that we can then kind of extrapolate our experiences and also accept the experiences of other beings, human and non-human, right? Mm-hmm. So that we can then, okay, now there's that level of empathy, right? I'm coming from a place of wholeness and completeness, and I'm coming from a place of healedness, so that, you know, I can hold space for the pain and the wounds of other beings. And that's really important. I don't think that we can effectively do our best work as change makers in the world if we haven't been able to come to that place of wholeness and healedness first. So that's kind of my job. I'm helping you build the stepping stones to being a better change maker.
So it's kind of like you help people figure out how to hold themselves so that they can hold others.
Yeah, that's a lovely way of putting it.
So that's beautiful. So what got you, like, how did you find yourself being this person wanting to do this for other people?
I think I think all of us know ultimately when we find our path that that's the path we've been on our whole life. And maybe we've kind of like, you know, meandered off it into the weeds and come back to it. But, you know, I was the little Libran middle child girl kid, right? Who was always the peacemaker, who always wanted to maintain harmony.
Yeah. The middle child. I mean, honestly, you're like, sum this up. I was the middle child.
Yeah. Middle child.
Yeah.
And then I added in, I was a Libra, you know, and an empathetic being, right? So very much feeling the pain of other people and other beings, to, you know, and if I look back on it now, I realize how somatic a being I was as well. It's like I would carry the wounds of myself in the world in my body, right? And I would get sick, or I would, you know, shake when there were issues of toxic conflict and stuff like that. So I was that kid, you know. I was also that kid who never really fit in anywhere. I was that kid who used to float around the different groups at school because I didn't really belong in any of them. And so that kind of raised both my skill at being in different groups, but also my awareness of what it feels like to be other than. And I think that awareness has kind of led me on this path, you know, even in my corporate career, thinking about, you know, my work as a human resources practitioner, looking at, you know, how do I combat discrimination and bias? You know, how do I stand up against, you know, how we're representing products in the workplace, all of that sort of stuff. How do I create communities? So it all kind of came to a head when I ended up on a medical leave from my corporate world, and had, you know, 4 or 5 months to sit and stare at my navel and think about, you know, really, is this worth it? Like, am I killing myself for the best and highest good? And I wasn't. And, you know, really kind of looking at what was driving my behaviors, what my values were, what I really wanted to do in the world. And it came down to, I really want to help. I want to help. I'm addicted to potential, right? I love people's potential.
I love hearing that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone ever in my whole life say I'm addicted to potential.
I am addicted to potential. I see it everywhere. I revel in it. I roll around in it. I love it. And most of us don't know our own potential. So I left the corporate world, became a coach, and in the meantime was introduced to Gift, my beautiful sweet mare, and was also learning animal communication thanks to my beautiful cat Toto, who passed on, and Jasper, who didn't know what to do with himself after Toto was gone. So I'd kind of fallen into learning animal communication, learning Reiki. And then it was like, oh, I want to be a Reiki practitioner for the rest of my life, right? But I only want to work with animals. And my Reiki teacher laughed and she said, that's not going to be the case. You're going to work with people. And I'm like, no, I won't. But I did. And then Gift adopted me. And she basically had a conversation with me where she said, you can't help my people, the animal nations. You can't help us unless you help yours. You have to heal people. You have to help people find their way back to their hearts. You have to help people find their wholeness, to heal, to move away from these indoctrinated places that they're living in. And that is how you help my people. That is how you help the animals, is you help the people. You have to. And she made no bones about it.
Yeah.
And I grappled with it, but it's ultimately, she's right.
It's true. So, the thing is that, as you know, and everybody knows who's listening to this, I work with animals, and I've worked with animals for years now. And I had a major resistance to working with humans because I was like, I don't want to. I want to work with the furry four-leggeds or the feathered or the skinned or scaled non-human animals. And I was forced into working with humans for a very similar reason. But I still focus on the beloved furry four-leggeds or feathered kingdoms, nations of animals. But that the thing is that is so reactive. I mean, it's reactive healthcare, because the proactive self-care has to come from the humans. The humans have to heal themselves to help their animals prevent these diseases, which is exactly why I'm doing this series, which is exactly why I have my furamily membership. It's so that women can come together and help work on themselves and heal themselves, because their beloved furamily members depend on it.
Yeah.
And so I love that Gift, your beautiful horse, was like, so here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
You actually need to go over to that side and those human animals over there to heal. If that's what you want for us. That's what's going to help us. So that is so cool. So I just have so many questions for you, and I hope I don't lose them all. But how long ago was that with Gift? When did that happen?
That conversation happened in 2012 when I was actually fostering her, and she decided that she didn't want to be fostered. She wanted to adopt me. And, we had to have a conversation about commitment because I was commitment phobic. And she's like, oh, whatever, just commit for now.
Yeah.
And that was when one of the ladies who was in one of my animal communication classes said to me, you're a coach. Why don't you partner with your horses? I know of this program called the Equine Gestalt Coaching Method, and I think it would be right up your alley. And so I did some research into it. It's run by a lady called Melissa Pierce in Elizabeth, Colorado. And what I liked about that particular program was not just the how in-depth it is. It's a 2-year intensive program. Mm-hmm. But that she really does emphasize that we are in service to the horses. The horses are she
They're
calls
running
them
the show.
Right. So they have this wisdom, this desire to help this race, this species called humans. They want to help us heal. And so the emphasis was very much on honoring the horse, on seeing the horse as a partner, not as a tool that you just use. A lot of the equine methodologies kind of use the horse as a tool. They're basically another tool that you would use, like a hula hoop, right?
Right.
With the equine Gestalt coaching method really looks at, the horses are our divinely connected partner.
Yes.
And they bring their own wisdom and their own perspective to the work. And so that basically clinched the deal. I'm
doing horse nods.
You're right, yeah. So I enrolled and did the program, 2-year program, graduated in 2015, and then hung out my shingle. I was in New Mexico at the time, and then moved to Kansas. Now I'm back in Washington. So,
you and I are on a very similar timeline, by the way.
Oh, are we? Nice.
Yeah, that was, maybe
there was some cosmic shift happening.
I think there was, honestly, I think I started in 2013. Yeah. 2012, 2013. So yeah, we're on a very similar timeline of while we've been working with humans and animals and whatnot. So that's interesting. Nice. And then meeting each other and connecting with each other. And so, that's beautiful. So, and I love too, that the horses are their own people. They're not a tool. They, totally. I haven't been trained in Gestalt, so I don't know, but from what I know of you and what I've witnessed through your work and what I know of me and my work is that a lot of times people think that humans are this like superior evolved being on the planet. And I always laugh because I'm like, no, it's the other way around. Highly spiritually evolved ones, and we're here, trying to figure stuff out. And so, I think they're really here as our teachers, and they're the wisdom holders. I truly believe that they're the wisdom holders, and and even in a session I was doing yesterday, just thinking all of the animals, Sugar Pants, I still work with Holly, even though she's crossed over, and all of the other animals that come into my sessions as guides, thanking them and being in full gratitude that they would help me with, being in service. So
exactly. Yeah.
So
that's the other part of it is the Gestalt piece, right? Is really for me, it's a method, it's a lifestyle, but the Gestalt approach is about wholeness, right? It's about wholeness and presence and integration. And that's something that the animals are and do better than we do, right? And so, I'm also really passionate about justice, right? And so I kind of need, for my own personal path, to help people move away from these supremacist ideas that we have, right? The human supremacists, white supremacists, male supremacists, whatever. And to bring us back to this idea that we are one on one level, and that we also have a lot to learn from the beings who are better integrated than we are.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How do people find you? How do they come to you? Are they like, hi, I have a horrible time having communicating with people, and I just want to force them into my will, or they, like, how do they go, oh, I need someone like Lorrin to help me with this? Because what you do in this, like, you're helping people make whole, but you're like helping them so that they can be more compassionate. I have a feeling that human ego would definitely play a role in being like, well, I don't need that. I'm really good at communicating, like, how does somebody get to the place where they're like, wow, I actually need a coach to help me be able to like listen and understand and hold other people, because I'm not very good at doing that.
I think a lot of them come because they're in pain somewhere in their life, right? And that pain is causing a reaction So they may not directly come because, oh, hey, I feel like I need to raise my awareness of, my privilege or anything like that. But they may come because they're like, I keep encountering these toxic situations at work, or, I keep losing friends, or I've lost my relationship, or, just I can't stand the state of the world that it's in. Why aren't people doing more? So they come with a pain point usually. And so here's how Gestalt coaching is different from most other coaching as well, is that I am not focused on an outcome. I'm not a results focused coach. So, you want to have accountability coaching, go to an accountability coach. If you want to get, strategy coaching or business coaching, find a coach who does that. But if you want to dig in on an existential level and really heal some of that unfinished business that's really kind of showing up in patterns in your life, come to me, right? So, for example, if you are, I have a client that I just worked with last night who is finding her way out of a long-term, pretty abusive relationship, and she's learning to find her voice. And I think that's a big part of how we make change in the world. Is most of us don't know our voice, we don't know who we are, and so when we find ourselves in repeating patterns, or we find ourselves in, victimized situations or anything like that, part of it is coming back to, how do I heal that trauma? Mm-hmm. And then how do I find my voice and my path out? And so a lot of this comes to, we look at what comes up, right? So when you sit down with me, or when you're on the phone with me, or whatever, however we're working, it will be what's up in the moment, what's on your heart, what's on your mind. And quite frequently where that conversation will end up going will be into an experiential exploration of something that may have happened in the past, right? Mm-hmm. So great example was somebody who came to me because she was starting a business and she wanted help setting goals, right? She wanted some help setting goals. And it was beautiful because she was working with Gift. And every time, so I'd have an experiential process, and every time the client would start to walk into her goal, Gift would walk off and she'd gaze out into the pasture. And the girl's like, why isn't she coming with me? I'm very clear about my goal. And I'm like, I'm not sure you've identified your vision. And she's like, oh, well, do we need, I have a goal. I'm like, yeah, but let's talk about what's stopping you from moving into this big vision that you have. And the conversation walked into, really naturally, the conditional love that her parents had for her, and all of the beliefs, the limiting beliefs that she'd swallowed as a child, being given this very conditional attention, this conditional love. You're only lovable if you do well at this, or you're only lovable if you behave yourself, or you're only, and we, especially girls and women, we swallow that stuff whole when we're kids, right? And we learn, I learned when I was a kid, oh, I'm not very good at math, or, I'm just a bit ditzy and a bit, dreamy. Well, is that really true? Or is that what I believed from what was constantly fed to me? And so as we worked through that, and we took her into this beautiful conversation between her adult self and her child self, we had a beautiful conversation with, her parents in the empty chair, basically. And she was able to get out a lot of the stuff, pick out, okay, this is my belief. This was something that was fed to me, and I don't think I want to hold it anymore. So I can give that back to you. And after that, every single client I have always goes, I feel really light. I feel much lighter, because they've resolved something. They've integrated something in themselves. And then from there, right, they can go, okay, what are my true values? What are my truest values? And she walked away going, I'm not ready to set goals. I'm not even ready to start this business. I've got some work to do.
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah, because you'd
okay,
be setting goals based on beliefs that aren't even yours. And
yeah,
so it's interesting that gift was like, oh, I get this way. So that makes me think of like, so when someone comes to you and you work with the horses, not as
mm.
a tool, but they're there as divine partners, what does that like, so what does that look like? Are the horses talking to like, do the humans ask a question and then is Gift your only horse that works with you, by the way?
Oh, I have Fella. So Gift is she's my mare, and she's an introvert. She's come from a traumatized background, and she's been a mom twice, right? So she has stuff that she brings to the table. Fella is a gelding. That's a boy horse who's been neutered, right? And he was an only child. He was raised by one person since birth. You know, he's my little princely pony who runs inside if it starts raining. Oh, my hair, you know.
Oh my God. And this is important to know these personalities because just
Very
like
important.
humans, they're going to have a different viewpoint on how
Exactly.
something should be handled. You have
Exactly.
a woman who's had 2 children and had a hard childhood,
Yeah.
many of us. But
Right.
then you have this beautiful boy who is like white
Right.
privilege.
He totally is. It's hilarious. And he's an
He
extrovert,
has, yeah,
right? He's
but
a
he's an
high extrovert,
extrovert.
very
But
big physical horse.
it's so funny because it's like they do all these studies where guys are always like, I know the answer. I know the answer. I totally studied this, but there's genius in that too. And you have to love that
Exactly.
being the
Yeah.
extrovert and being like, oh, my hair, I'm beautiful and all the ladies need to see me like this. And so he's going to have a different viewpoint, but it can be very helpful depending on
Yeah.
the situation of what's going on. So
Exactly. So when you're working with them, so first of all, I always tell my clients, look, the horses, they can choose whether or how they work, right? We're in an open area. They can walk away. They can choose like, no thanks,
you're not
right?
really
So
I don't really have any helpful advice for you. I'm tired of this topic.
and you know what's really
Going to right now.
interesting
Yeah.
is that, so here's the thing, when the humans are up here in this little frontal cortex, right, and they're like, no, 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 and they're in their story, the horses are not interested. No thanks, right? You smell like drama and a headache.
You
Right?
smell like drama and headache. You need a t-shirt that says
There is
that.
a t-shirt. I stole that from a t-shirt I saw on the internet. But it's true, right? And that as the person gets into their truth, the horses, they cannot help it. What happens is that person's energy smooths out, right? They become more congruent. And the horses go, oh, there you are. And
Oh,
they are
totally.
attracted to it, right?
That's far more
So,
interesting. Okay, we have to
absolutely.
pause there. I mean, not pause, but I want to comment on 2 things with that.
Yeah.
So humans, our energy body is 4 to 6 feet based on how we feel. A dog's is 10 times bigger than us. A cat's is even bigger. A horse's energy body is the size of a whole arena. And so if a human's like in this, like has this chaos of like, the horses are like, that's like nails on the chalkboard. Also, this is very boring.
Yeah, it
It's
is
not,
very
it is
boring.
not pleasant on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
So then when the human starts to like connect with their crown, their crown chakra, and open up that divine, creation, connecting with the universe, that's a much I feel like I just have to explain this for the women in my group because we talk about this all the time. So when
Yeah.
you're in fear, that's your lower chakras.
Right.
And when you're in love and high, like, oh my God, I'm having these epiphanies and I'm in a place of creation, I'm connected to source, those are high vibration energies. And that feels really good to be with somebody who's in a high vibration energy. Humans experience this. We experience this with each other. It's like having somebody who's like having a fear meltdown versus I just came out of a meditation. I've been down by the lake reading a book, like those are the people that you're just like, oh, that feels good. And horses are so much more in tune with this.
Yes, but get
Humans
this.
are.
The horses will love you in your fear meltdown if it is true and honest and authentic and vulnerable. They will love you in your rage meltdown if it's true and authentic and vulnerable, right? But if you are telling yourself a story about it, they do not love you, right?
Oh,
So
so it's when
this is
you're like, I'm okay, now I'm
beautiful.
actually
I am the
going
most
into my deep,
real me.
I'm vulnerable. Yeah.
I am real. They're like, hello, human.
Oh,
This is
cool.
great.
They're like, oh, cool. You're doing your work. This is really
Yes,
nice. This is
yes,
interesting. Well,
yes.
it's, I've experienced this. I know you have, but I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has experienced it. It's the stories we tell ourselves over and over and over.
100%.
You get to a certain point where you're like, pay or get off the pot. Like, I don't know. I can't listen to this anymore. This
Yeah,
story you told yourself so many times. It's
yeah,
morphed and changed. I don't even think this is true. And,
exactly.
they've done studies on this, and it's like all love. There's love. Everything we're saying right now is love. So if anybody's
Um,
listening, we love you. This is all in love. But they've said that, like, there's studies that we make up most of our experiences are not even really true. It's a story we've told
it's a
ourselves.
story we've told ourselves.
And
Exactly.
so the horses, when you're like if it's rage or if it's fear, but it's true, authentic, they're going to be
It
there
is.
with you.
It's beautiful. I mean, I've had a client who was working through some deep trauma that was bringing up a lot of fear for her in a lot of current situations. One of our most impactful sessions, I think we talked for maybe 10 minutes. And then for 45 minutes, she stood with her back leaning against fella's tail. So he backed up to her, she backed up to him, and she stood there. He stood rock solid for 45 minutes, giving her beautiful root chakra energy and
Yeah.
support,
I was
right?
like, wow,
His
he
root
was,
chakra up against her heart chakra, right? And for 45 minutes, they were in some other universe. And my job was just to hold space for that, right? That was powerful. I've had clients who, I use a lot of somatic releases, right? People hold their trauma, they hold their anger, their fear in their body. And so I'll have somebody get a pool noodle and beat the shit out of a drum or a cube or something like that, right? Because they got to get that anger out. It's got to stop stuffing yourself down, right? Stop like blocking your energy. And this one lady, I loved it. I will never forget it. We were actually in an indoor arena. I had both the horses with me, and she was talking. She was actually a new vegan, and she was just kind of getting her head around some of the atrocities that happen to animals. And so she's like, I'm so angry about this. I'm so angry. And she's this very sweet, soft-spoken, like relaxed, like go with the flow lady. She goes, I'm very angry about this. And I'm like, well, how angry are you? And she goes, I'm fucking angry. And I'm like, really? How angry are you? And I pulled her into the arena. I gave her the pool noodle. I'm like, how angry are you? You show me how angry you are on this barrel, right? And she looks at me and she goes, well, I'm not really sure I can get in touch with my anger. And as she said that, her body said, hold my beer. And she just wailed on this thing. And she was like beating on it so hard. And the horses were racing around. Their tails were up. They were super excited. She goes, am I frightening them? And I'm like, nope. I beat on that thing half an hour ago. And they couldn't be bothered. Like they really didn't even bat an eyelid. They're celebrating. They're celebrating your truth.
oh,
And it was beautiful. She wailed on that thing for like 25 minutes. And then she was like, I'm done. I feel so clean, you
wow.
know? And the horses were right there with her. They immediately came up to her and they were just like, you are a beautiful human being. Beautiful.
Oh,
And it was just, I mean, I love it. I love it when people experience that, you know?
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So then the horses will stay with you in those, if it's true. If
If
you're
it's,
if you're raw and vulnerable and they know that you're doing real healing and you're not just telling yourself a story that you need to hear to justify feeling or whatever. So, but then
justification, yeah. They're allergic
justification.
to justification, but they're absolutely, I mean, authenticity and realness is I mean, it's like sugar. You
Yeah,
know?
but
They're very
oh yeah,
attractive.
yeah. They're like, someone brought a sugar pill. I'm interested.
Yeah.
So sugar cube. So when the horses, are interested in being there, like, there maybe it sounds like they're always kind of like it's never the same. You're never going to get the same session with anybody ever. It's never twice. It's never repeated. It's not this methodical, we stand here with the horses. The horse gives advice. It's like, oh, the horses are running. Now they want to stand with you. Now they want to be here. Is that more true?
That is true. It is unique to every person. And sometimes the horses are, you know what, we don't feel like working right now. And even when that happens, so here's the beautiful thing about working in partnerships with 1,200-pound beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is they're mammals, we're mammals. Mm-hmm. And the co-regulation will happen. Mm-hmm. And so, and they've done studies about this. They've actually like measured people's like heart rate, their blood pressure, their cortisol levels, their serotonin levels. And what happens is when you are in the vicinity of a horse, physiologically, you will benefit regardless of whether you're interacting with them or not, because they will co-regulate with you. So your blood pressure will drop, your cortisol will drop, your serotonin, your oxytocin will increase, your heart rate variance will come into a more natural rhythm, right? So what's happening there? Your polyvagal system, right? Your limbic system and your parasympathetic nervous system are all lining up, and you're moving out of your lizard brain and into a more creative, receptive space, right? So just by virtue of being around them,
yes,
you are connecting to your truth. You're connecting to your natural state of being.
Yeah, your nervous system.
Into a state of wellness, right? And then you can move into more creative, problem-solving, visionary, whatever, right?
Right. Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah. So I don't care if the horses engage with the people or not. I am not attached to that at all. I know that whatever happens, the people are benefiting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And, and too, it's like, I know this, with Sugar Pants, my cat, what I've seen with her, I mean, we all know that all animals are so different, just like humans are. We all want to do different things. We all have different jobs. We all find things interesting and not interesting. And Holly was my teacher. She is my highly evolved teacher that got me into this line of work. Unlike you, this is not something I ever thought I'd be doing. It was not on my radar. It was Holly's mission. She put me into it. Gift did the same with you, but I'm really good at helping with these conversations. I had no idea that I was going to work with animals or that I was good at it. So, but Sugar Pants, AKA Pants, is totally different.
Yeah.
And her mission is to pull me out of stress or like being in my head too much. And she does that by getting crazy.
Right.
She gets the zoomies. She starts dancing. She's doing the things the horses were doing. And I'm like, oh, that's my sign. I have to have a zoomie party with you. And I get up and I know it's like that movement that's so important.
Yeah, she's your somatics coach.
Yes. Yes, she's my somatics coach. Yeah. So she's like, we got to move. We got to shake. We got to get it out. You're getting too serious. You're taking things way too seriously. I remember once I was like holding my cup and I was thinking when I walked by her, she was in her cat tower. She smacked it out of my hand onto the ground. And I was like, oh, you are so naughty. And then I started laughing. I was like, oh, that was her like, stop it.
Yeah, snap out of
that story. You are telling yourself a story right now. Yeah. And, but she's different with everybody, all the time. And that's why I've got fur flying up all over the place here. I don't know if you can see it. So I'm like laying right here. So, it's really interesting that's how the horses work with you. So then do the horses communicate with you at all about the human? Like, this is what I see, and that you can relay and translate? Do you ever play the role of the translator?
No, not really, because the job is actually on the client, right? So my job is not to translate or to try and give them an answer. My job is to say, what are you aware of? What's come up for you? What's happening in your body right now? What where did you just go? You know, you were walking with the horse and they stopped. What changed? So
that's so much more profound, because
so my job is to observe and to feedback. The client makes the connections.
Because if you were saying the horse says you do this, then it's like, then they bypass all the work without actually having to do the work.
Yeah. So I can say to them, like, whoa, hang on a second. You know, like, so Fella, he's a very big physical coach. Gift is a very, you know, she'll bring it into herself and process. She's amazing at energy work. And she's beautiful at holding space for grief or loss or pain. But Fella, he will tell you how you are showing up. And he will be like, wait a second. I mean, he was working with one little boy, actually, who was kind of moonlighting as a therapy horse. And every time this little boy would come into the arena, Fella would run to the wall and start scraping his teeth on the wall. And it was, and we would say to the little boy, what's going on? Like, have you noticed what Fella's doing? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so what's going on? He's like, it's kind of how I feel, you know? Or the lady who said to me, I don't have anything to be coached on. I'm just curious about this. And I'm thinking, well,
oh my God.
I'm not really sure how I'm going to work with you. but I said to him, like, okay, well, I want you to walk around. Just walk around, and I want you to just contemplate your life. Just think about it. And so she's walking around thinking about her life, and Fella's like, oh my God. And he runs over to her and he starts like nipping at her and pulling at her shirt and like really fussing all over her. And she's kind of like, you know, and when she got to the point where I was like, okay, she's going to smack my horse. So I'm going to stop her right there. And I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, this is just like my life. She's like, everybody wants a piece of me. I can't get a minute to myself. And off we go into a coaching session, right? Because he was just like, stop it. Oh God, let me show you what's going on, right? And he is so good at that.
Wow. Yeah. My God, Lorrin, that is so cool.
Yeah. I know. He catches me all the time. When I'm up in my head and I'm not paying attention, he'll reach over and nip me. He'll be like, hey, get back in your body, you know?
Yeah. And like, that's nothing. That catches your attention when you have a huge horse that's like, yeah.
And he always does it on my belt, which is really sweet because he knows not to do it on my skin. Right. So he just over and he nips my belt. You know?
Like, I'll be gentle. But
okay. Yep. Good message received.
Yeah. He holds a mirror. So
that's and I love that you said he holds a mirror and not that he is a mirror, because there are some people who say horses are mirrors, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're sentient beings. They have their own place to be. But he holds the mirror and he says, let me show you how you're showing.
Let me show you what you're doing. Let me show you what you look like. Let me show you what's going on in your life that you refuse to look at. Yeah, that's really, really super cool. I've like loved learning this because, like I said, we've been friends on Facebook for years, but I've had no idea really, to be honest with you, that this was the level of your work. And now as you know, I'm in Seattle all the time. Like,
yes, you are.
My sister and my brother live there. And I'm like, why have I not been out there? And I need a coaching session with you. And then next time I'm out there, I'm definitely going to arrange. It's so hard with family because they want to bogart all of your time. But I'm going to definitely like make sure this is in my schedule to do this. And so, because I would love to meet both Gift and Fella and, and just experience this body of healing that you bring to the world with your divine partners. And because it's just so beautiful, and I just love everything about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I know you work, one-on-one, and people come to you. Is it ever an option for people to work with you if they're not in Washington, if they're not in that area?
Yep. I have clients in Arizona. I have a client who spends half the time in Australia, half the time in the UK. I have a client in somewhere on the East Coast. I don't even know where she is, but
do the horses work with you in those distance sessions?
No, I do ask them to come in energetically just to guide me and to help me be aware. Because, my job is to listen, and to listen with my ears, but also with my heart, right? So when we're working on the phone with a client, I just ask the horses to be
present
on my team. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's no less Gestalt for all of that. I've had people, get up and dance on the Zoom camera with me. I've had people do, kind of, okay, we're working through a polarity where, one part of you is in conflict with another part of you. I want you to put a belt on the floor. Let's have these two parts of yourself talk to each other. Stand on one side, who's this? Stand on the other side, who's that? I'm still going to get people into experiences versus just stories.
Right.
That's really important. It's important for people to be able to have their own, that awareness, that aha moment.
Awesome. So if there was one thing, as we're wrapping up here, one thing you'd really want, like, what's one thing you really want people to know? Like from like that's like in your body of work, like, I have to share this. This is a message that people can't hear enough or don't ever hear that I have to share.
God, people, you hear it, but I don't think you integrate it, that your compassion cannot be whole if it does not include yourself. You've got to do your work, and you've got to learn how to be kind to yourself. And you've got to learn all the self-contempt. Guess what? That translates into contempt of others. Self-judgment, judgment of others. Get your work done. Pay yourself some attention. Be kind to yourself. Learn how to nurture yourself. Learn how to hold yourself through those moments of pain. Because when you do that, you're going to do it better for everybody else. And that is complete compassion.
I love that, Lorrin. And one of the things I do is like I dance naked to the Ramones when I'm stressed. That's like, I laugh about this. They're probably like, "Oh my God, you say that all the time." But I swear it like pulls me out of weird, crazy mental states. And that's part of my self-care. And I take a lot of baths, and those are like the baths I go into a deep healing. I put a lot of clay and salt, and I use oils, and I go into a deep, deep healing. And actually Sugar Pants loves bath hours because she can feel the deep healing that's happening with me. And so when I go and turn on the bath water, she's like, "Oh," and she follows me and she starts making muffins as she's walking. Like, it makes her so excited. Like, "Oh, cool. You're doing self-work. That's awesome." What's something you do? What do you do? Or like when you want to nurture yourself?
For nurture, but you can't really go past a bath, a hot bath with a good book. It's one of my favorite places to be. But I spend a lot of time just hanging out with my animals because it's, for me, that's important. It's quality, and just not doing anything. I don't want to have an agenda, just hanging out with them. That's part of my self-nurturance. But
no agenda. I love no agenda. That.
Yeah.
That's no nurturing agenda. Is no agenda.
Yeah. And then I just, there's a lot of self-talk that I do, right? If you're interested, go to selfcompassion.org and have a look at some of the work that Dr. Kristen Neff does around self-compassion, and just reminding myself that, this is hard. It's okay. Acknowledging, don't try and sugarcoat everything. Just be like, wow, this it feels really hard right now. And I'm in a lot of pain right now. And that's okay. And self-soothing, kind of being able to hold myself, or rub my legs and just be like, it's okay, we're going to be okay. That's a big part of it. But then there's the hard part of self-care, right? It's like, hard as in, there's the nurturing side of self-care, which is so important. But then there's the kind that the compassion, like a surgeon, right? You know what, we need to get up and go for a walk. You need to drink some water, right? please remember to take your vitamin D3. Take some magnesium.
You need to go to bed early.
Yeah, get some sleep, right?
Yeah.
But also, hey, stop numbing yourself. What are these emotions you're feeling? I gave up coffee a couple of weeks ago and I was cranky, Lorrin, for like 3 days. And I'd go into the kitchen, I'd stomp around and get all frustrated, and I'd stomp out again, and I'd stomp back into the kitchen, like, nothing's working, And my coach actually said to me, she's like, what a beautiful gift. What needs to be felt? What have you been using your coffee ritual to not feel? And I'm like, because we numb out with rituals, we numb out with consumption. And my coach has been really instrumental in helping me to accept the metabolism process and to just be like, what, I need to feel this right now. This is part of my self-care. I need to feel it. I need to acknowledge it. It sucks. It hurts. It's hard. And I need to allow it to digest. And so that's something that used to feel really bad. And now it doesn't, because now I have this different perspective on it, that I just need to digest this. I might have a tummy ache for a little bit, but once it's digested, I'll have the energy and I'll have passed out the toxic stuff, and
totally.
That's integral to my self-care these days.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. And so people can find you on Facebook and Instagram, or tell like your website.
Yeah, Facebook's probably where I hang out most. Just because I don't know, it's easy choice. And it's fun and it's where I am. Yeah, but messaging me, getting on my Facebook, my personal page or my work page. My website needs updating. It will be updated soon. So as we all are.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, Lorrin, thank you so much. This was just so awesome. I just loved this time with you. And I know that your work in this world is changing the world. And I really appreciate that you do this. And I know that the women in this group are really going to benefit from listening to.
Thanks, Rachel. And I love that you're offering support to the women in your group. I think that that's invaluable. What a beautiful community you're building.
Thank you. It's the animals. They're like, you guys,
you together.
You gotta get together. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And if you've listened to this in the membership site, and leave a comment on what you thought. Have a great day.